Model Context Protocol, MCP, is the hot thing that everyone talks about, but nobody tells you how to build them. What if I tell you it's actually dead simple to build an MCP? And I'm going to build a complete MCP server that you can actually use with Claude, which is actually useful, created by you, so you know all the code inside out, and it's very safe to operate. We're going to do this with Claude Code and completely without pressing a single letter on the keyboard. So let's get started. All right, so before we get to the actual implementation of MCP, I want to actually tell you how it works on paper, on theory, so you understand the core architecture and then we can design it. So the core idea for MCP server, let's say, it's very simple, right? So an MCP works with a large language model, so you need an LLM, and then there's an MCP tool or MCP server that you're running over here. Let's assume that you're creating an MCP for something, right? So you will create MCP server for something. An MCP can't just exist. You can't just say that, hey, this is an MCP server. That doesn't make a lot of sense. An MCP server exists for a service that is typically traditionally a traditional service or not an AI native service, right? So what I mean by AI native is that you don't have a CLI for it, or you don't want to give a CLI access, or something which is more direct that an LLM can run on its own. So let's say we are creating an MCP server for Postgres databases, right? And let's say this is a safe MCP. That means that this only allows read-only queries, right? So it will never accept anything that writes to the database in any capacity. So it only accepts read-only queries. So in this case, what's going to happen is that based on the user query, right? So user will talk with the LLM, which is your actual human. LLM will figure out the intent of what's going on, and it's going to see all the available tools that MCP registers with it, right? So if the first thing is that MCP will expose certain amount of tools. So it's going to say, for example, the Postgres thing, continuing on that, let's say it exposes you tools like list tables, run query, or list table schema or whatever, right? So let's say we have like a bunch of these tools, which we figured out that these are like good amount of tools to expose. Now this is LLM's choice, whether it wants to use one tool, many tools, or no tool at all, right? But the LLM is aware about that these sort of tools exist. Now, based on users' discussion that's happening with the large language model, it's going to make a call. It's going to figure out like, do I need to call any of these tools? And if it does, then it's going to make that call to the MCP server, right? So it's going to execute or request that, hey, I want to do a run query, right? Let's say of select one. So your large language model is going to run this tool over an HTTP API, or a JSON RPC as well, which is common in local MCP tools if you're running it locally. But for the sake of simplicity, let's just assume that this is an HTTP API. It's going to tell this MCP server what parameters to run this against. And then this is an MCP server which will use existing code to run that, right? With the parameters that your large language model gave it. That's it. This is as simple as it gets, right? The only advantage here is that because this MCP is sort of like a standard, this large language model could be anything. It could be Claude, it could be Codex, it could be, something like Minimax agent, anything that you're creating, right? It could be some random LLM API call. It could be anything. So you can basically link any sort of large language model with this MCP and make that call. You create this part once, you create this infrastructure piece once, and you can use it anywhere. Now, of course, the most important task over here and the benefits comes from this MCP server programming, right? So if you are designing, for example, an MCP internally for your own company or for your own use cases, what you have to do is figure out the tools, first of all, like what sort of tools you want, and you have to figure out their implementation. Now, some tools are very simple, right? For example, if you're running run query, if you're implementing a run query as a tool, you just have to get the query from the large language model, which is supposedly going to write the query, and you just have to run it, right? So let me give you an example of how would we build something that I'm talking about, right? A safe MCP for Postgres, which only runs on read-only queries. So I am already inside this folder over here, inside my YouTube projects and safe MCP Postgres, and I'm going to use Claude Code for implementing this. Now, when I run Claude Code, you know that by pressing space inside Claude, I get this option of having a voice enabled mechanism, right? So I can speak and it would be able to implement whatever I'm saying. But this is something that I don't like for a couple of reasons. First of all, in one of the videos, I don't remember which one, but if you look back into my history, you would see that I was using this and this actually lost my data. And second of all, this is not accurate. Especially with technical coding terms, this actually loses meaning. Let's try this. Next.js, AWS, GitHub, Vercel, Netlify, Postgres, MySQL, PlanetScale, Azure, Bedrock, Astro, Cloudflare, PNPM, Bun, SQLite, and so on. So, I mean, if you look at this, it got a lot of technical terms actually wrong, including Vercel, Netlify, Astro is also capital for some reason. SQL is completely wrong. I don't even remember what I said here after SQL. But anyway, the core idea is that if you want to work with voice, you need a better solution than what we have over here, and ideally something that works across apps. And that is where today's sponsor, Willow Voice, comes into play, which is an AI-powered voice dictation that is powerful enough that it can replace your keyboard completely. That is what they claim. And I'm going to show you how this is true by building this application, this MCP server that we are talking about, completely with my voice. You can download it for free. It's available for a lot of platforms, so you can download it on whatever platform you are on at the moment. Once you install it, you're going to be presented with this view. I would suggest using this prompting AI so that it configures it in a way which is more suitable for you as a developer. Over here, I want you to choose YouTube and mention this video. You can choose the privacy mode, which is the default one as well, where your dictation history stays encrypted on your device. So it's completely secure and nothing escapes your device, which is what I would ideally want to have, the things that I'm speaking. And you're going to give it two permissions. First is obviously listening to your microphone, and second is pasting the text so that it can finally put whatever you have said as a text thing into whatever input there is. So I'm going to give it the microphone one, and I'm going to give it the pasting permission as well. Once it's done, you're going to see both of them are marked as done. And I'm just going to say a sentence so that, it just calibrates the mic. I'm going to click continue, and it says that it would have a dictation shortcut, right? So it says function for now, which should work fine, I guess. So I think the whole onboarding flow is also pretty awesome in order for you to set it up correctly. And because this is working fine, let's click yes. Click on continue. Hi, John. I'm looking forward to working with you. Are you available to meet at 3 p.m. on Friday? Wait, no, Saturday. Best, Jacob. All right, so it works fine. I'm going to skip this one. And once you're done with the setup, you're going to see this icon at the bottom of your screen. So let's go ahead and start dictating to our Claude instance on what we want to do. Hi Claude, so this folder is available for you to set up a project, a custom MCP server rather, that works with Postgres, and here is how it should work. It's a safe MCP Postgres server. That means that you should only allow database strings which are read-only. So the first layer of defense is that just check if the current user, which is signed in with Postgres with the connection string that is there in order to establish the connection, that cannot perform any sort of actions. You should not accept any action which is destructive, which is right? So you should only be able to allow read-only strings in this MCP server. That is first condition. Second thing is that because this is an MCP server that we are implementing, let's just go with a few minimal tools that we want to expose to the user, right? For example, I think running the query obviously is important. Listing all tables is important. And listing like a schema of a table also feels like important as a tool call. You can just think of everything else as, whatever you are doing. You can figure out like other tools that are needed. And thirdly, implement this using TypeScript, Node.js. Use TSX package, which allows you to run TypeScript directly without actually transpiling it with ESBuild. And this MCP server, for the time being, needs to run locally. So come up with a plan and execute this whole thing. All right, moment of truth. Let's leave the function key. And you can see we got it. And one thing that I actually don't like about Claude is that it does not show you the text. And it's also not in my clipboard, right? So we just have to press enter and figure out what we have done is right or not. Okay, so we have the message as, hi Claude, this folder is available for you to set up a custom MCP server. I don't want you to bore with me reading the whole thing again, so you can just pause the video. All right, moment of truth also got actually included because I did not leave the function key before that. but I feel that this transcription was actually much better than what you actually have internally with Claude. And because this works like cross application, you can just hold your function key, speak, leave it. This is probably a great way to work with voice, right? So do check out Willow. All the links are in the description in order for you to get started. But for the rest of the video, I'm going to be using Willow voice itself so that I can show you like it's actually possible to just do everything based on your voice itself. Awesome. So Claude has done the initial setup. And now if you look at code, there are some obvious things that I want to fix. For example, as you know, like if you have been watching my content, I don't really like these symbols in package.json. I want to lock the dependencies always. And I also prefer PNPM, which is fair because I did not specify like what I want to do. So it has created these bunch of files. There are also some .db.js extensions that we are importing, even though like this is a TypeScript file. This does not really seem necessary. So let's just write something here. I also saw Zod, right? So let me just make sure in the index, right? So we could probably be using Zod here as well. So let's talk about this. Hey Claude, so you have done good work, but there are a couple of things that I want to fix. First of all, I want you to update package.json so that there is no caret or tilde symbol. I want to version lock the packages with their exact versions. Second, let's change this to PNPM instead of NPM. And third, I see that you already have Zod installed. Use that for also parsing the CLI arguments, right? So make sure that they are in the correct shape. Make sure that they are in correct shape, not shame. And make sure that the extensions that you are using, I see like somewhere in the imports, you actually imported .js, where I feel that the extension is not really required at all, right? Because we are running it with TSX, I feel that you can just remove the extension .js because it also looks wrong because the file that you're importing is technically a .ts file. All right, so if I press enter now, and let's just wait for Claude to fix the things that we have told it about, while we can take a look at rest of the code base, right? So you see that index.ts is obviously the entry point, as we can see. And the first set of function that runs is this main. So we get the connection string, we get the MCP statement timeout, which by default is 15 seconds. Then we have max rows as well, which is again like a safe practice, which is nice. Then it creates a read-only database, which is a PG instance, which is a very popular node package for connecting with Postgres databases, and specifies these bunch of things, right? So it has created an explicit begin read-only rollback transaction. This is the third layer of defense. Postgres itself rejects any write or DDL inside a read-only transaction, regardless of role privileges, which is super interesting because I did not know this about Postgres. And this is an absolutely new and fun thing that I came across with Postgres, that Postgres natively supports begin read-only as a clause. So you don't even need like a DB string, which is DB user, which is read-only. My MCP implementation itself was, I think it can be extended a little bit better. My MCP implementation can be a little bit more relaxed. So we can also specify or supply them with read, write, database connection strings. And if we are using read-only, that ensures that we are not running anything bad. So it runs a read-only query with this begin read-only block. It executes the query and it just does the rollback over here. Let me actually ask Claude if this is something that we can skip now. Hey Claude, so I just saw that there is something known as begin read only transaction sort of mode, right? That you have done, which is pretty cool. I did not know about that. But tell me one thing, is that itself like a foolproof thing? Can we remove the restriction of the database user itself having a read only mode? Because then that will make it, much more easier for people to get started with our MCP because they don't have to create like a specialized user. And there we go. I mean, it's far better than typing, right? You just dictating something and sending it across is much faster, easier, and I should say like lazier also than typing. Other than that, you can see like we have the server.tools for running queries. And I mean, this max rows check that Claude has added is not really very useful, right? Because we anyway got the data and you're just truncating it in the memory itself, right? So you might as well just remove that. I can probably ask Claude to do that. Then for schemas, it is there. Tables, it is there. It also has a describe table. It also has an explain query, which is also interesting. something that I forgot about but could be useful for, just debugging performance or seeing like what's going on. All right, so it is giving me some drawbacks of read-only transaction. It's saying that DB link or out-of-band connections can still be established. This thing opens a separate session. The original session's read-only mode does not apply to the new connection. If DB link is installed and the role has usage on it, this is a complete bypass to a write. Super user-only side effects are also there. Side effecting functions are also there. So it's telling me to not drop the check, but of course you can drop it if you just harden your database a little bit, right? So the core idea is that I'm thinking about this from a point of view where you're exposing an MCP server over internet on a dummy temporary Postgres with dummy data in a read-only mode. Now, again, like I think even in that case, you probably want to have a read-only user because this transaction can also be closed manually by the user, right? If they are writing some malformed query. So anyway, let's just keep the read-only user, not an issue. All right, let's just keep everything as it is. Now, Claude, tell me, how do I integrate this MCP server that I just created inside my Claude desktop application? And here we go. It's also giving me a tip to double tap the hotkey to enter hands-free mode. So you can technically just press the key twice and speak instead of just, for example, what I'm doing right now. I'm just keeping it pressed and releasing it. I, for some reason, feel that that's something a little bit more that I like, but you can also use the hands-free thing that the app suggested. All right, Claude, can you just update the configuration directly? I would update the database URL later, finally, once you have done the configuration. So I just wanted to update the config, and I'm gonna obviously, put a actual database there so that we can work with Claude in order for you to show like how this database works. But obviously, like I don't want to show that string to you on the video. So looks like it has added the MCP server. And now let me just update the database URL and jump into Claude. All right, so once your MCP server is done, it's established, what you can do is open Claude Desktop like I'm doing, and you can also verify it by pressing Command and a comma key, which will take you to this general settings. Just go to developer and you're gonna see that your safe Postgres is an MCP, local MCP that is actually running right now. Super. So we can go back and I can use the function key again to ask it some questions. Hey Claude, can you actually show me the number of users that are registered on Fermion? I am actually live right now on YouTube, so I'd want you to round it up to the nearest million and don't show the exact figure, just round it up to the nearest million and tell me about that. So of course, like I don't want to give you the exact figures right now because I am in the middle of something with the company. We are undergoing an acquisition process. So I would want to keep those things hidden for some time. But the idea here is that you can see like it can now basically operate completely based on the data that you have, right? And you can see like rounded up to the nearest million, Fermion has around 2 million registered users, which is pretty cool. Awesome. Can you also give me a breakdown of this users on a monthly basis? I want you to not show the y-axis right now. In fact, let's just not do monthly, let's just do yearly so that we can keep the data a little bit more weird. And yeah, don't show the y-axis with the numbers part because again, I am live on YouTube, that's why. Awesome. So this saves me a lot of typing time thanks to Willow Voice. Again, all the links are in the description if you want to check out and have the similar workflow. Press the function key, speak, and the text appears magically in any text box on any application on your desktop. And as you can see, we had a great 2025 year. Not so great 2026 right now because it's in progress. But it's also a time where we have paused the new signups, right? So we don't have a lot of new signups coming in because like I mentioned, we are in the middle of a few things. I don't know like why it has decided to show these years because there was literally nothing over here. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you create something like this, an MCP server that works locally. I hope this tutorial, like end-to-end thing of creating an MCP tutorial was useful for you. And it's super easy to create these things even with AI agents now, right? And even with voice, so you don't even have to type the prompt itself in the first place. So that's all for this video. Hopefully you liked it. If you did, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Do check out Willow Voice, which makes it super easy to work with any system on your computer just using voice. All the links are in the description. And I'm gonna see you in the next video very soon. If you're still watching, make sure you leave a comment, I watched till the end below, to tell me that you were still here and let me know what do you think about the video.